So I just got done watching the Monday Night Football game between the Eagles and the Chiefs, and boy, do I have some instant reactions. Now look, this may be recency bias, but are the Chiefs in trouble? Look, you have a great QB in Mahomes, and you have a great coach in Andy Reid. That will get you a playoff win, but will that get you two? Now, as I take a look at the AFC standings currently the Ravens have the first overall seed now in the AFC. The Chiefs fall to second with their loss on Monday night. So, where does this put the Chiefs now? Am I selling all my stock on the Chiefs? No, but I'm cautious now because you lost at home coming off a bye, and your offense is still not as stagnant. All right, if we look at their schedule, they dropped 20 against the Lions in week one. Now, look, week one was forever ago. We can't necessarily consider that now, but even without Travis Kelce, they still, the excuse would be they didn't have Travis Kelce, yet you didn't have a guy step up. You look at another game, Jacksonville, they only scored 17 in that one. And then you go a little bit later, and they only scored 19 against Denver. And then they lost to Denver, only scoring 9 points, and they only scored 21 against the Dolphins. Now, they're winning these games, but they're also losing some of these games. And we just saw tonight them losing a one-score game in which they had the potential to win the game late, and they failed to do that. One shocking stat that I found out is they are last in the league in second half points. They're on average 5 points in the second half, which is horrendous, by the way, and that's a big problem. Now, I think you can't give out on Mahomes. This is not Mahomes' fault. If you watched the game last night, there's plenty of blame to go around. He did have that bad pick, which is in consideration for why they lost. It should be included for why they lost, because that interception was easily one of the worst throws I've seen Mahomes throw. I haven't seen all of his games, but the one I've seen definitely on primetime, that was a horrendous throw. Kevin Byard picked it off in the red zone. And then you had a Travis Kelce fumble in the red zone later on in the game that, for me, at least put the nail in the coffin, because you could tell the Chiefs were struggling offensively to at least get drives going. If they got a drive going, they would get to the red zone, and then bang, a turnover would happen. But they were struggling to get them started. And so they would shoot themselves in the foot with turnovers and essentially allowed Philly to kind of play their style of game in which they were able to run the ball. Jalen Hurts only had 150 yards passing, and they barely threw it. He actually had a really good completion percentage because they barely threw it. And then the one great throw he had was Devonta Smith that put him right on the 1 yard line for the tush push. So the Eagles, were held in check by the Chiefs defense for most of the game. But if your offense is inept like the Chiefs are in the second half of this season, that's a big problem. Now, it's not a Mahomes, but I think it's on the loss of Eric Bieniemy that no one's really talking about. I think that's a major loss for this offense. But most importantly, it's the wide receivers. We saw MVS, that long bomb, perfect throw by Mahomes, dropped. And that once that happened, you'll lose 100% of the time. Because come back from the momentum swing, it's insane. Because you think, oh my gosh, he's wide open, touchdown. Then nothing happens. So, can you trust the Chiefs receivers going forward? I don't think you can. You have Travis Kelce, but we've seen these past couple of weeks, teams really double him, bracket him, and not necessarily let him get these yards. And he struggled today as well because he was doubled. That allowed, Watson to get a couple receptions. And that was really about it. Isaiah Pacheco had a good game. If they can run the ball, then they should be fine. But, if they're in a tight-knit ball game and they need to convert a third and long and you can't go to Travis Kelce, who can you trust to catch the ball? Because Mahomes is going to put it there. He had a couple great throws tonight and some great throws that weren't caught. You even had Travis Kelce have a bad game with the fumble, like I mentioned earlier, but also then a crucial drop on third down. He made up for it the following play in that fourth down, but it goes to sense. Travis Kelce has to be perfect because Mahomes, that has to be guaranteed if he's open. You got to hit him for how many yards that is because Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league, and you need him to play like that, especially with your lackluster supporting cast. So where does this go for the Chiefs? Well, I saw a great stat by Nick Wright, and he posted the playoff records by quarterbacks in both NFC and AFC. And Mahomes is clearly the most experienced in the postseason, which should favor them because experience does matter, especially if you're going to be facing first-time playoff quarterbacks like a Tua, like DTR with the Browns, like a CJ Stroud, a rookie quarterback. And, if the Steelers somehow make it, then you got to deal with a Kenny Pickett who's new to the playoffs. Maybe the Bills make it and there's more experience there, but it's a really crowded AFC in terms of newbies, and that will potentially allow the Chiefs to use their experience to their advantage, right? Lamar has only played in 3 playoff games and has a 1-2 record. So if they get the first seed, they're going to be a bye, and then they might potentially play a Dolphins team or, a really scary Browns team that actually beat them in the in the regular season. But this is about the Chiefs. Here's the thing with the Chiefs. I think they really need that home field advantage this year. I think it's a huge advantage for their team. I know they just lost off a bye, and you're like, what? I think that goes to the prowess of the Eagles. I think the Eagles are a really great team that no one's truly buying into yet, which is crazy because they keep winning these games. But there just feels like there's something wrong with the Eagles, even though it necessarily hasn't been presented at all. They've only lost a game because Jalen Hurts decided to turn over the ball, and he had another turnover tonight, which wasn't necessarily his fault. So if Jalen Hurts can protect the ball, the Eagles will be fine, at least as a team-wise. Maybe their secondary is a little suspect. And really interested to see the 49ers matchup, because if the 49ers can, counter that poor secondary, where do the Eagles go from there? Because you saw Dak kind of chew up that secondary with CeeDee Lamb. Now the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot, and, the Eagles are very good at not doing that and forcing the other team to do that. So the Eagles definitely are the favorite right now in the NFC, but I can't wait to see that matchup in 2 weeks between the Eagles and the 49ers. But with the Chiefs, let's look at the rest of their schedule. They play at Las Vegas, at Green Bay, versus Buffalo, at New England, versus Vegas again, home against Cincinnati, and then at the Chargers to end this season. So it's a pretty favorable schedule because you're playing the Raiders twice, and the Raiders have picked up some steam. They are just coming off a loss to the Dolphins, so you can't necessarily take them lightly, especially next week since they're on the road. But ultimately, that should be a win at Green Bay. The way Buffalo's low-key kind of been playing, that should be a win at home. And then that should be a win in Foxborough. And then you play the Vegas again at home. That should be a win. Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, that should be a win. And then the Chargers are so dysfunctional. Even if you're playing on the road, that'll be a home game for the Chiefs. That should be a win. So they should win out. So they should realistically finish this season with a 14-3 record. Now, is that good enough to beat the Ravens? We'll have to see. The Ravens' next matchup is against the Bengals. So we'll have to see how that goes. For the Ravens, that should be a win. But the Ravens, are very inconsistent as well. They dominate the Lions, but then they lose against the Browns. So ultimately, we have to wait until this AFC picture shakes out to really get an opinion on the Chiefs, because if they get that 1 seed, I still feel like they are the favorite. I think they have at least a top 2 defense, maybe top 3 in the AFC, and top 5 easily in the league. So their defense might have to carry them, which is really strange with the Mahomes-led offense. You would think this offense would be at least top 10, but what I'm seeing, it's absolutely not that. And it was crazy. This was the first time I watched Mahomes get the ball left with 2 minutes to go, game-winning drive on the line. And I was thinking, I don't know if he could do it. I don't think Mahomes is going to score here. And it's not because of Mahomes. And it's not because of Andy Reid. It's because of their wide receiver core. Someone needs to step up, and we have yet to see that all season. Kadarius Toney did that in the Super Bowl, and then he's kind of disappeared in the offense. Sky Moore, he's been brutal all season. You have Rashee Rice, who's probably their best receiver. He's been all right, but yet he's still not breaking out and having any stellar games. And then Travis Kelce's doing all right. And then that Watson guy, who's pretty decent, but he would be an average tight end on every team. So ultimately, where do the Chiefs go from here? It's a reset week offensively. I think they low-key needed this, because if they won this, they would be feeling really good for the rest of the season, because they don't have any conflict, really, from what I see, for the rest of the schedule. Maybe if Buffalo gets hot, back to their winning ways, and Josh Allen stops turnovering the ball. I doubt it, but ultimately that should be a really easy schedule for them the rest of the season. So hopefully they can use that to tinker some things out and get ready for the postseason. So what do you guys think of the Chiefs' loss to the Eagles on Monday Night Football? Are the Chiefs contenders anymore or pretenders? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.